For much of the 20th century, Radio Shack stood as a symbol of American consumer electronics, technical curiosity, and neighborhood retail. Its rise and fall reflect broader shifts in technology, retail economics, and consumer behavior, changes that transform not only a company, but an era. Radio Shack began in 1921, founded by Theodore and Milton Deutschman in Boston. The company's original mission was narrow but forward-looking, to supply amateur radio operators with parts and equipment at a time when wireless communication was still new. In those early decades, radio was both a hobby and a revolution, and Radio Shack grew alongside it. The company expanded slowly at first, but its trajectory changed dramatically in 1963 when it was purchased by the Tandy Corporation. Under Tandy's ownership, Radio Shack shifted from a specialty supplier into a national retail chain. Small storefronts appeared in malls and shopping centers across the United States, each densely stocked with electronic components, radios, batteries, cables, and repair parts. By the 1970s and 1980s, Radio Shack occupied a unique place in American life. It catered to hobbyists and engineers while also serving everyday consumers. One could buy a transistor, a police scanner, a home stereo, or a replacement cord, often with the guidance of an employee who understood how the technology worked. At its peak, Radio Shack was not merely a store, but a gateway into understanding electronics. In 1977, it introduced the TRS-80, one of the first mass-market personal computers sold fully assembled. For many Americans, Radio Shack was their first encounter with computing technology, years before computers became household essentials. By the mid-1990s, Radio Shack operated more than 7,000 stores worldwide. Yet beneath this apparent success, structural problems were emerging. The electronics industry was changing rapidly. Devices were becoming smaller, cheaper, and more disposable. Consumers increasingly replaced products rather than repairing them, eroding demand for components and technical guidance. At the same time, competition intensified. Big-box retailers offered electronics at lower prices. Online sellers provided unmatched convenience and selection. Radio Shack's small stores, once an advantage, became a liability. Many locations were overcrowded with inventory that no longer matched consumer needs. Management struggled to adapt. The company shifted focus repeatedly, toward mobile phones, then wireless contracts, then branded accessories, often abandoning its core identity without establishing a successful replacement. Sales practices became aggressive, alienating customers who once trusted the brand for expertise rather than upselling. Financial performance declined steadily through the 2000s. Attempts to modernize stores and rebrand the company failed to reverse long-term trends. In 2015, Radio Shack filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection for the first time, closing thousands of stores. Though the brand survived briefly through restructuring and licensing agreements, the retail chain as it once existed was effectively gone. By the early 2020s, Radio Shack remained largely as a name, used online and in limited contexts, but no longer as a nationwide physical presence. The era of walking into a neighborhood electronics shop staffed by knowledgeable generalists had largely ended.